Hey warriors, look, I need to be honest with you about something. Right now, as you're watching this, there's probably a voice in your head making excuses for why you can't change. Maybe it's telling you you've tried before and failed. Maybe it's whispering that you're just not the type of person who gets things done. You wake up every morning with good intentions. You tell yourself today's going to be different. Today, you'll finally start that project, hit the gym, call that person, or take action on that dream you've been putting off for, well, longer than you want to admit. But then what happens? Life happens. Your phone buzzes. Netflix calls your name. That comfortable couch looks pretty inviting. And before you know it, another day has slipped through your fingers like sand. Here's what nobody talks about, though. Laziness isn't really about being tired. It's not about lacking motivation. It's about fear dressed up as comfort. And that fear, it's keeping you prisoner in your own life. Now, I've been studying the ancient Stoics for years, and these legends, they figured something out that most of us miss. Marcus Aurelius wasn't sitting in some ivory tower philosophizing about life. He was running the Roman Empire while fighting wars and dealing with plagues. Epictetus. He was literally a slave who found freedom in his mind. Seneca navigated the deadly politics of Rome while building massive wealth and influence. These weren't perfect people. They were real people with real problems who discovered something powerful. The way you think determines how you live. And here's the thing. What I'm about to share with you isn't some feel-good motivation that'll wear off by tomorrow morning. These are 7 brutal truths that will fundamentally change how you see yourself and your potential. I'll be straight with you. Some of this stuff is gonna sting a little. Actually, it's gonna sting a lot. Because we're gonna strip away every comfortable lie you tell yourself about why you can't change. We're gonna destroy every excuse you've been hiding behind. But if you're tired, and I mean really tired, of living below your potential, if you're sick of making promises to yourself that you never keep, if you're done being disappointed by the person in the mirror, then you're in the right place. You know what the Stoics said? We suffer more in imagination than reality. Think about that for a second. How much energy do you waste imagining how hard something's gonna be instead of just doing it? But here's what makes this different from every other self-help thing you've tried. These laws don't depend on you feeling motivated. They work when you're tired, when you're scared, when every part of you wants to quit. They work because they're built on truth, not feelings. And before we begin, like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, share it with someone who needs this, and subscribe to the channel. Remember this. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That was Marcus Aurelius. And if that doesn't wake you up, nothing will. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I refuse to waste another day. Number 1. The law of ownership. You are the author of your own story. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. All right, let's start with the first brutal truth that's gonna hurt, but also set you free. You are 100% responsible for your life. Period. End of story. No exceptions, no buts, no, yeah, but you don't understand my situation. I know. You're probably thinking, but you don't know what I've been through. You don't know my circumstances. And you're right, I don't. But here's what I do know. Blaming your circumstances is the fastest way to stay stuck in them. Look, most people live their entire lives as victims. They wake up already making excuses. The weather's bad, traffic's gonna be terrible, my boss is unreasonable, my family doesn't get it, I didn't sleep well, I don't have the right resources. Sound familiar? But here's what changed everything for me, and what the Stoics figured out 2,000 years ago. The moment you accept complete responsibility for your life, you get your power back. Not because your circumstances magically change, but because you change how you relate to those circumstances. Epictetus spent years as a slave. Think about that. He couldn't control where he lived, what he ate, or how people treated him. But you know what he realized? Nobody could control his thoughts, his values, or how he chose to respond. He said, "No one can hurt you without your permission." Now, I'm not saying bad things don't happen. They do. Life can be brutal and unfair, but your response? That's always within your control. When you truly get this, and I mean really get it deep in your bones, laziness starts dying a natural death. You know why? Because laziness feeds on the victim mentality. It lives off excuses and external blame. Take those away, and laziness has nowhere to hide. You can't be lazy and take full responsibility at the same time. It's impossible. When you own everything, I mean everything, in your life, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How am I going to handle this?" Instead of, "Why don't I have what I need?" You ask, "How can I work with what I've got?" Instead of, "Why is change so hard?" You ask, "What's one small thing I can do right now?" And here's the beautiful part. This works immediately. You don't need permission, perfect conditions, or more resources. The second you decide to own your situation completely, you've already started changing it. But let's be real about what this means. Taking ownership isn't just about the big obvious stuff. It's about owning the small daily choices that seem meaningless, but actually create your entire life. It's owning the fact that you chose to hit snooze 5 times this morning. It's owning that you spent 2 hours scrolling Instagram instead of working on your goals. It's owning that you know exactly what you should be doing, but you're choosing not to do it. This might feel overwhelming at first, maybe even scary. When you realize you're the author of your own story, you also realize you can't blame the plot on anyone else. But this isn't a burden. It's the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's the gift of agency, of choice, of power. And here's something most people miss. Taking ownership also means owning your potential. You can't claim to be a victim while ignoring the incredible capabilities sitting inside you right now. Every single person watching this has skills, knowledge, and experiences that billions of people throughout history would have considered miraculous. Yet we focus on what we lack instead of leveraging what we have. When you own your story completely, every challenge becomes raw material for growth. Every setback becomes information. Every failure becomes education. This isn't positive thinking. It's practical wisdom. The Stoics believed the only real slavery is mental slavery. When you believe you have no choice, no power, no ability to change. But the moment you accept complete ownership, you break those chains forever. So, here's my challenge for you. For the next 24 hours, take ownership of everything. Your mood, your productivity, your relationships, your results. Stop looking for someone or something else to blame and start looking for ways to respond powerfully. If you can do this, drop in the comments. I am the author of my story and the architect of my future. Number 2, the law of present action, the only moment that matters. Confine yourself to the present. Marcus Aurelius. Here's the second brutal truth that's going to destroy your excuses. The only time you can ever take action is right now. Not tomorrow when you feel more motivated. Not Monday when you'll start fresh. Not when the stars align perfectly. Right freaking now. And I know what you're thinking. But I need to plan. I need to prepare. I need to wait for the right moment. Nah, you don't. You need to stop living in two places that don't exist, yesterday and tomorrow. Most people spend their entire lives replaying past failures or fantasizing about future success, while the present moment, the only moment where actual change can happen, slips by completely unnoticed. This is where laziness gets all its power. Laziness loves to negotiate with time. It whispers sweet lies like, "We'll start tomorrow. We'll do it later. Let's wait until we feel ready." But here's what I learned from studying Marcus Aurelius. Feeling ready is a luxury you can't afford if you want an extraordinary life. He was managing an empire and fighting wars on multiple fronts. He didn't wait for quiet moments or perfect conditions. He worked with what he had, when he had it. He understood that the present moment is your only raw material, and if you waste it waiting for better materials, you'll never build anything. Look, every single moment you're alive, you have a choice. You're either moving toward your goals or away from them. There's no neutral ground. Even choosing not to choose is a choice. It's choosing to stay exactly where you are. When you really get this, procrastination becomes impossible, because you realize every moment you delay is literally stealing from your future self. But this goes deeper than just taking action. It's about where you put your attention. When you're truly present, when you're fully locked into what you're doing right now, laziness can't survive. Laziness needs distraction, mental fog, and disconnection. Think about it. Laziness isn't really about not wanting to do things. Most of the time, you know exactly what you should be doing. The problem is your mind is scattered across 1,000 different thoughts, worries, and distractions. The Stoics had a practice called procrastination, continuous attention to the present moment. They knew the mind will wander into useless territory if you let it. But when you consciously direct your attention to what's happening right now, everything changes. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. Every moment you spend thinking about how hard something will be, you could have spent actually doing it. Every minute you waste planning the perfect time to start, you could have used making progress. But let me be clear, this doesn't mean you don't plan or learn from the past. It means you recognize that all your power exists right now. Your past can inform your current actions, your future goals can guide your present choices, but the actual work only happens now. And you know what's beautiful about this? The present moment is actually the easiest place to take action. The past is heavy with regret. The future is overwhelming with possibilities, but right now is simple. You just need to do the next right thing, not 10 things, not everything at once, just the next right thing. This is how you kill laziness permanently. You stop negotiating with time. You stop waiting for lightning bolt motivation. You stop looking for perfect conditions. You ask yourself, what's the most important thing I can do right now? And then you do it, not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because that's what this moment is asking of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote his famous meditations during military campaigns, in between battles, while dealing with political crises. He didn't wait for perfect writing conditions. He used the moments he had. The Stoics understood that time is your most valuable resource because it's the only one you can never get back. Every moment you spend in laziness, distraction, or procrastination is gone forever, but every moment you spend in present action builds momentum, creates progress, and moves you closer to who you're meant to become. So, here's what I want you to do right now, not later, not tomorrow, right now. Identify one thing you've been putting off, something small, and do it before you watch another video or check your phone. Prove to yourself that you can act in the present moment. And if you can drop this in the comments, I claim my power in this present moment. Number 3, the law of uncomfortable truth. Embrace what you avoid. The cucumber becomes bitter. Throw it away. There are briars in the road. Turn aside from them. This is enough. Do not add, what do such things exist in the world? Marcus Aurelius. All right, here's the third brutal truth that's going to make you uncomfortable, and that's exactly the point. The things you avoid most are exactly what you need to do most. Your discomfort is literally your GPS pointing toward growth. I know this sounds backwards. We've been trained to think life should be comfortable, that we should only do things that feel good, that resistance means we're on the wrong path. But the Stoics discovered the complete opposite. Every single one of you has a list. Maybe you haven't written it down, but you feel it in your gut. It's the list of things you know you should do but keep putting off. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation. Maybe it's starting that business. Maybe it's getting in shape, learning that skill, or facing that fear that's been controlling your life. What's on your list? Come on, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those things that make your stomach tighten when you think about them. The tasks you somehow never have time for, even though you have time for everything else. Here's what the Stoics figured out. That uncomfortable feeling isn't a warning to run away. It's your internal guidance system screaming, this is where you need to go. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, regularly practiced voluntary discomfort. He'd sleep on the floor, eat simple food, expose himself to cold. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood that comfort becomes a prison when it's your only option. This law reveals something most people don't want to face. Laziness isn't about being tired or unmotivated. Laziness is your mind's defense system protecting you from discomfort, uncertainty, and the possibility of failure. It keeps you safe in your comfort zone. But here's the thing, safety and growth cannot exist in the same space. They're mutually exclusive. Think about the last time you accomplished something truly meaningful. Was it comfortable? Did it feel easy? Were you completely prepared and confident? Hell no. It probably scared the crap out of you. And that's not a bug in the system, that's the feature. Growth requires discomfort, the same way building muscle requires resistance. You can't get stronger without lifting heavy things. You can't grow without facing difficult things. But here's where most people screw this up completely. They think they need to eliminate the discomfort before taking action. They wait to feel confident before starting. They wait to feel ready before beginning. They wait for fear to disappear before moving forward. This is completely backwards. The Stoics knew that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the presence of fear. Confidence isn't something you need before you start. It's something you build by starting. When you embrace this law, you start seeing discomfort as information, not instruction. The discomfort tells you, this matters, this could change your life, this is where your potential lives. But it doesn't tell you to run, it tells you to lean in. This is also why most advice about overcoming laziness doesn't work. People try to make things easier, more comfortable, more convenient. They look for hacks and shortcuts to avoid discomfort altogether. But the discomfort isn't the problem, avoiding it is. The most successful people in any field have learned to dance with discomfort. They don't necessarily enjoy it, but they don't avoid it either. They understand it's the price of admission to an extraordinary life. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, political chaos, personal tragedies. He could have chosen the easy path of avoiding difficult decisions, delegating tough choices, just enjoying being emperor. Instead, he chose to face each challenge head-on, to do what was right instead of what was easy. And here's something powerful. When you start moving toward what makes you uncomfortable, you discover something incredible. Most of the fear was in your head. The actual doing is rarely as scary as the imagining. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, not happy. It will always overestimate danger and underestimate your ability to handle it. But every time you push through discomfort and prove to yourself you can handle it, you expand your comfort zone permanently. So, here's your challenge. Identify one thing you've been avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable. Not the biggest, scariest thing, just one thing. And instead of running from that discomfort, walk directly toward it. I want to drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace discomfort as my pathway to growth. Number 4. The law of identity transformation. Become who you need to be. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Seneca. Here's the 4th brutal truth that changes everything. You cannot solve your problems with the same identity that created them. If you want different results, you gotta become a different person. And nah, I'm not talking about changing your personality. I'm talking about upgrading who you are at your core. Most people try to change their lives while keeping their identity exactly the same. They want to lose weight, but still see themselves as not a gym person. They want to build wealth, but identify as bad with money. They want to wake up early, but believe they're not a morning person. This is like trying to drive somewhere new while refusing to turn the steering wheel. The Stoics understood that transformation starts in your mind. Epictetus taught that we're not our circumstances, our past, or our current habits. We're our capacity to choose who we become next. But here's where most people get stuck. They wait to feel different before acting different. They think identity change happens first, then behavior follows. But the Stoics discovered it works the opposite way. You become who you are through your actions. Every choice you make is a vote for the type of person you want to be. Every action is moving you toward your ideal self or away from it. This is revolutionary because it means you don't need some magical transformation moment. You don't need to find yourself. You can start becoming who you want to be right now by asking, what would that person do? And then doing it. Lazy people have lazy identities. They see themselves as people who struggle with motivation, who need external pressure, who work better under deadlines, or who just aren't disciplined by nature. But here's the truth that'll set you free. None of these things are permanent facts about who you are. They're just stories you've been telling yourself, and stories can be rewritten. This law means you gotta fire your old self and hire your new self. Your old self might have been the type who hits snooze 5 times, starts projects but doesn't finish them, makes excuses when things get tough. Your new self is the type who gets up when the alarm rings, follows through on commitments, finds solutions instead of problems. This doesn't happen overnight, but it starts immediately. Every time you choose to act like the person you want to become instead of the person you've been, you're strengthening that new identity. Marcus Aurelius was born into privilege. He could have lived a life of pure self-indulgence. Instead, he chose to become a philosopher-emperor, using power for service instead of personal gain. He didn't wait to feel wise. He practiced wisdom until it became part of who he was. Here's the beautiful thing about identity transformation. It creates a positive feedback loop. When you start seeing yourself as disciplined actions become natural. When you identify as someone who follows through, finishing becomes automatic. But this requires brutal honesty about who you currently are and who you need to become. You can't transform what you won't acknowledge. If you want to become disciplined, you gotta admit you've been undisciplined. If you want to become consistent, acknowledge your inconsistency. This isn't about shame, it's about clarity. The gap between who you are and who you want to become isn't a problem to solve. It's a bridge to build through consistent action. Every day, you get hundreds of opportunities to vote for your new identity. Choosing to work out is a vote for being fit. Choosing to read instead of watching TV is a vote for being a learner. Doing what you said you'd do is a vote for being trustworthy. Laziness dies when you stop identifying with it. When you stop saying, I'm just not a morning person, and start saying I'm becoming someone who owns their mornings, everything changes. When you stop saying I'm not good at following through and start saying I'm building my follow-through muscle, new possibilities open up. The most powerful question you can ask yourself every day is, what would the person I want to become do in this situation? Then do that thing, even if it feels weird at first. Remember, you're not trying to become perfect. You're trying to become consistent. You're not trying to change everything at once. You're trying to change one decision at a time. Number 5. The law of momentum physics. Small actions create massive results. Well begun is half done. Ancient wisdom embraced by the Stoics. Here's the 5th brutal truth about crushing laziness. The hardest part of any journey isn't the middle or the end, it's the first step. But once you're moving, staying in motion becomes easier than stopping. This is literally the physics of human behavior. Most people completely misunderstand how change works. They think they need massive motivation to make massive changes. They believe they need to feel inspired to take inspired action. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect energy level. But the Stoics understood something powerful. Momentum is created through motion, not the other way around. Think about pushing a car. The hardest part isn't keeping it rolling once it's moving, it's getting it to budge from a complete stop. That initial push requires enormous effort, but once you have momentum, maintaining it takes relatively little energy. Your life works exactly the same way. When you've been stuck in patterns of laziness and procrastination, your life has zero momentum. Every action feels like pushing that car from a dead stop. This is why starting anything feels so overwhelming. Your brain isn't just dealing with the task, it's dealing with the massive inertia of inactivity. But here's where the magic happens. Once you start taking action, any action, momentum begins building. And momentum doesn't just add up, it multiplies. It creates ripple effects that touch every area of your life. The Stoics called this kata prokopin, gradual progress. Seneca wrote about making small daily improvements, understanding that consistent small actions create extraordinary results over time. He didn't try to transform his entire life overnight. He focused on becoming slightly better each day, trusting that these improvements would compound into massive change. This reveals why most people fail when trying to overcome laziness. They try to go from 0 to 100 immediately. They make dramatic promises about completely changing their lives. When they can't maintain this impossible pace, they think it proves they're lazy by nature, and they quit entirely. But the law of momentum physics teaches you to start ridiculously small. Don't commit to working out for an hour. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. Don't promise to write a book. Promise to write one sentence. Don't vow to reorganize your entire life. Just make your bed. These tiny actions might seem meaningless, but they're not. They're momentum generators. Marcus Aurelius didn't become the most powerful man in the world overnight. He built his character through thousands of small choices, small disciplines, small commitments to doing right instead of easy. When you understand momentum physics, you stop looking for motivation and start creating it through action. Motivation isn't something that strikes you. It's something you build through movement. The more you move, the more motivated you become. This law also explains why stopping is so dangerous once you have momentum. When you're on a roll, when things are flowing, taking a break can be devastating. Not because you should work constantly, but because restarting requires exponentially more energy than continuing. Professional athletes get this. They don't take long breaks during training because they know how hard it is to regain momentum once it's lost. Writers don't wait for inspiration. They write daily because daily practice keeps momentum alive. Here's something beautiful about momentum. It builds in all areas simultaneously. When you create momentum in one area, it spills into others. Start exercising regularly, and eating well becomes easier. Get your finances organized, and you have more mental energy for relationships. But momentum works both ways. Just as positive momentum builds on itself, negative momentum does the same. Every time you choose comfort over growth, laziness over action, you're building momentum in the wrong direction. You're making it easier to make that same choice tomorrow. The law of momentum physics gives you a clear choice. You can either deliberately build positive momentum through small, consistent actions, or accidentally build negative momentum through small, consistent avoidance. There's no middle ground. You're always building momentum in one direction or another. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one small action you can take every day for the next week. Something so small it feels almost stupid. Maybe it's doing 10 push-ups, writing one paragraph, or organizing one drawer. Do it every single day and watch how that tiny momentum starts affecting everything else. Number 6. The law of internal standards. Your word is your bond. A person's worth is measured by the worth of what he values. Marcus Aurelius. Here's the 6th brutal truth that most people never learn. The quality of your life is determined by the standards you hold for yourself, not the standards others expect from you. When you make a promise to yourself and break it, you're not just failing at a task, you're training yourself to be unreliable to the most important person in your life, you. This is the part most people completely miss when trying to overcome laziness. They focus on external accountability, systems, and motivation. But the Stoics understood that the most important relationship you have is with yourself, and that relationship is built or destroyed one promise at a time. Every single day, you make commitments to yourself. Some are small. I'll get up when the alarm rings. I'll eat healthy today. I'll work on that project for an hour. Others are bigger. I'll start exercising regularly. I'll save money consistently. But here's what most people don't realize. Your brain is keeping score. Every single time you break a promise to yourself, you're sending a devastating message to your subconscious. I can't trust myself to do what I say. This creates a downward spiral where making commitments feels pointless because deep down, you don't believe you'll follow through anyway. Laziness thrives in this environment of self-distrust. But when you consistently keep promises to yourself, especially small ones, something powerful happens. You develop what the Stoics called genuine self-respect, not arrogance, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you'll do what you say, even when no one's watching. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about integrity with yourself. As emperor, he could have easily justified breaking personal commitments because of external responsibilities. Instead, he understood that his ability to lead others was directly connected to his ability to lead himself. The law of internal standards means you gotta start small and build your self-trust gradually. Don't make grandiose commitments that sound impressive, but are impossible to maintain. Make small promises you know you can keep, then keep them religiously. Promise to make your bed every morning for a week. Promise to drink water first thing in the morning. Promise to write 3 sentences before checking your phone. These might seem trivial, but they're not. They're trust-building exercises with yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, you're making a deposit in your self-respect account. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you're making a withdrawal. This law also reveals why external motivation rarely works long-term. When your standards depend on other people's expectations or approval, you're building on an unstable foundation. People will disappoint you, circumstances will change, external pressure will fade. But when your standards come from within, when they're based on your relationship with yourself, they become unshakable. Seneca practiced this by regularly examining his daily actions against his internal standards. He'd ask not, "Did others approve?" but, "Did I live up to my own values today?" Here's the brutal truth. Most people have incredibly low standards for themselves while demanding high standards from everyone else. They'll show up late to their own commitments but get angry when others do the same. They'll break promises to themselves daily but expect others to be reliable. This double standard creates internal chaos and makes consistent action impossible. When you raise your internal standards, everything changes. You stop making excuses because excuses violate your standard of personal responsibility. You stop procrastinating because procrastination violates your standard of follow-through. But raising standards isn't about perfectionism or being harsh with yourself. It's about clarity. It's about deciding what kind of person you want to be and then acting in alignment with that decision, especially when it's difficult. The Stoics believed that character is built through the accumulation of right actions, especially when those actions are difficult or inconvenient. Every time you honor a commitment to yourself, you're building character. Every time you choose the easy path when you promise the difficult one, you're eroding it. Your integrity with yourself is the foundation everything else is built on. Without it, no system, no accountability partner, no external motivation will work long-term. With it, you become unstoppable because you know that when you commit to something, it's as good as done. So, here's my challenge. For the next 7 days, make one small promise to yourself each morning and keep it no matter what. Watch how this simple practice starts changing everything. Number 7. The law of death consciousness. Time is your only non-renewable resource. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius. Here's the 7th and final brutal truth that will obliterate your laziness forever. You are going to die, and you don't know when. This isn't meant to depress you. It's meant to wake you up to the most motivating reality you'll ever face. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori, remember death. Not because they were morbid, but because remembering death is the fastest way to remember how to live. When you truly understand that your time is limited and non-renewable, laziness becomes impossible. Most people live as if they have infinite time. They postpone important conversations, delay pursuing dreams, spend days on activities that add zero value to their lives or anyone else's. They act like there's always tomorrow, always next week, always next year. But Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in his world, regularly reminded himself of his mortality. He'd wake up each morning knowing this day was a gift, not a guarantee. This practice didn't make him anxious. It made him urgent about living meaningfully. When you embrace the law of death consciousness, your priorities become crystal clear. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter and start focusing intensely on things that do. You stop worrying about what people think because their opinions won't matter when you're gone. This law forces you to ask the most important questions. If you only had 1 year left, how would you spend it? What would you do differently? What would you stop doing immediately? What conversations would you have? What would you create? Here's the profound truth. You don't have to wait for a terminal diagnosis to live with this urgency and clarity. You can choose to live this way right now. Seneca wrote, "Life is long enough if you know how to use it. The problem isn't that we don't have enough time, it's that we waste the time we have. We spend hours scrolling social media, watching shows we don't even enjoy, having conversations that go nowhere, doing work that doesn't fulfill us. We live like we're immortal, then wonder why life feels empty and rushed. The law of death consciousness doesn't mean living in fear or anxiety. It means living with intention. Every morning when you wake up, you have about 16 waking hours. How will you invest them? Will you spend them moving toward who you want to become, or waste them on distractions that keep you exactly where you are. This perspective transforms everything. Work becomes an opportunity to contribute something meaningful. Relationships become chances to love and be loved. Challenges become adventures for growth. Even mundane tasks become part of the precious experience of being alive. The Stoics understood that death gives life its urgency, its meaning. Without the reality of death, nothing would matter because everything would be reversible. With the reality of death, everything matters because nothing is guaranteed. When you truly embrace this law, laziness becomes not just unproductive but offensive. It becomes an insult to the gift of life you've been given. It becomes a waste of the limited time you have to make a difference, to grow, to love, to create. This doesn't mean you can't rest or enjoy simple pleasures. It means even your rest should be intentional. Even your pleasures should be chosen consciously. Every day should be lived as if it matters, because it does. The ancient Stoics believed a life well lived was one where you could face death with no regrets, knowing you'd used your time wisely, loved deeply, and contributed meaningfully. They understood that death isn't the opposite of life. Meaninglessness is. Think about this. Your days are numbered, though you don't know the number. Your time is limited, though you don't know the limit. Your opportunities are finite, though you don't know how many remain. This isn't a burden. It's the ultimate motivation to live fully, love deeply, and act decisively. Right now, someone you care about is running out of time. Right now, an opportunity that could change your life is waiting for you to act. Right now, the person you could become is waiting for you to stop making excuses and start making progress. The question isn't whether you have time. The question is what you'll do with the time you have. Look, you now have 7 brutal laws that can completely transform your relationship with action. But here's the thing, and I'm going to be straight with you about this. Knowledge without action is just sophisticated procrastination. You can understand every single principle I've shared perfectly, but if you don't implement them, you'll stay exactly where you are. And honestly, that would break my heart because I know what you're capable of. The law of ownership reminds you that you're writing your own story. The law of present action shows you that all your power exists right now. The law of uncomfortable truth teaches you to run toward what scares you. The law of identity transformation proves you become who you act like. The law of momentum. Physics shows how small actions create massive results. The law of internal standards builds unshakable self-trust. And the law of death consciousness gives everything urgency and meaning. But here's what's going to determine whether this video changes your life or becomes another piece of content you forget: what you do in the next 5 minutes. The ancient Stoics didn't just study philosophy, they lived it. They took these truths and applied them to their daily battles, their relationships, their challenges. They understood that wisdom without application is just sophisticated ignorance. Your old life, your old excuses, your old patterns, they're all waiting for you to come back. They're comfortable, familiar, and easy, but you now have something they can't compete with: a clear path forward. The question isn't whether these laws work. The question is whether you'll work them. Will you choose the comfortable path of staying the same, or the challenging path of becoming who you're meant to be? If this video lit a fire inside you, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs this wake-up call, drop a comment telling me which law hit you hardest, and subscribe because we're just getting started on this journey. Your transformation begins right now. Choose wisely. Drop this final commitment in the comments.